All right, our headlines, and there's a lot. So let's start with Iowa State, and already we can feel some of the pain from the live streamers. Yeah, it was tough. Cyclones won it 45-13. They averaged just under 24 points a game coming in, and then they had a big night, and BYU didn't. Jake Retzlaff, 10 of 27. He threw 2 picks, only 104 yards, had 6 yards at halftime. We wondered if that had ever happened before in the history of BYU
We just kept
football.
looking and going through our notes to try to find if BYU's ever thrown for. And you know what? We were giving Dave Nixon a hard time because remember the 3-0 game in the snow against Utah?
Yeah.
We're like, it's one thing to not score against Iowa State, but to lose 3-0 to Utah, we told him that was worse.
That was worse. Retzlaff
I hope you
17.
all think that was worse. Which is worse, losing to Iowa State 45-13 or losing to Utah in the snow 3-0? So
Retzlaff rushed 17 times. He's not afraid to move it around. Maybe sometimes he does it a little too quickly. Picked up 64 yards. But the positive story coming out of that game was Isaac Rex and his big catch that he waited his whole life to make.
And we all made a concerted effort to not mention it on this show, The Record, not mention it on any of our BYU TV shows, because we felt like at some point we were the problem. That because we kept mentioning The Record that we were jinxing him and he couldn't get the record. So we said nothing all week, and it worked. He caught his 23rd career touchdown pass. That's a record for tight ends. He passes Gordon Hudson into the record books. That's an amazing, because think about the tight ends that have come through this program over the years.
Including his dad.
Yeah, Byron. It is an amazing accomplishment. And now hopefully the lid's off the basket. And in these next 2 games, he can, and he caught more balls.
Hey,
right?
They threw to him 3 times in a row on that drive, which was more than they've thrown to him in the last 3 games.
Yeah, it was good to see him more involved. And Isaac needs to be involved in these next 2 games. And the tight ends need to be involved in this offense a lot more moving forward. So BYU was just 3 touchdowns in the last 3.5 games.
Yeah, that's not good.
No,
that's how you lose 3 straight.
Way too much pressure on your defense. And 45-13 in this one. I'll keep coming back to some. Defense did not play well these last 2 weeks. But if BYU can match some scores for a while, let's say BYU scores 28 in this game. And I think you need to average 30-plus a game to compete in this league. And I've been saying that since before the season. It's a different league. If you can't score 30, you will not win in this league with very few exceptions, right? Let's just say BYU went out and scored 28. Iowa State doesn't get 45 if BYU scores 28. First of all, because BYU, that would probably mean to score 28 that they don't turn it over the first 2 times they have the ball. I mean, think about that. You start this game off and you spot them 10. This is not a new story. You spot them 10 points
That's how you lose all these games.
With a fumbled kickoff and an interception on the first offensive play from scrimmage. And next thing you know, Iowa State has a 10-point lead and they have literally 30 yards of total offense and 10 points. And then you just kind of see the whole collective psyche of this team go, oh man, like here
we go again.
Here we go again. They climbed back in it. Defense made some plays and they got back to 10-7. And you thought maybe they have a chance, but it's hard to overcome that.
The concerning thing is Jonathan Ashcroft from Henderson, Nevada says, hey guys, what's up? Good to have you here. We love the Southern Nevada Cougar fans. The concerning thing is you're right. They got to score more points. They're not even getting into the red zone. It's not like they're getting in and missing kicks or whatever. I think they only got in the red zone 1 time and they scored a touchdown.
And this is like multiple weeks in a row.
Yeah.
When you look at red zone numbers, BYU is actually pretty good. When they get into the red zone, they convert. First of all, they have an unbelievably reliable kicker, so he's not going to miss, right? I feel like he's automatic. And they've had a pretty good touchdown percentage when they get down there. They haven't been getting to the other side of the field and into the red zone at all. Move the ball a little bit, cross the 50, and stall out has been the story offensively. And it feels like defensively they get behind in a game like that. And as we watch the film, and we want to make sure we talk about this, it's not an effort thing on defense. I don't think it's an effort thing on offense either. But on defense, what we see is guys like getting in their own heads about, oh no, here we are behind, the offense isn't going to score, so now I've got to do something extraordinary. And so guys start getting out of their assignment and start running to the football instead of playing their assignment. And now all of a sudden there's big gaps in the defense. We go back and watch the film. We're fortunate enough that we get to do that for our shows. We get to watch the All-22 and say, whoa, what's going on here? And what I'm not seeing is, it's not guys not hustling and running and doing all that. It's guys trying to do things that aren't even their assignment. And so let's say it's a backside end or a backside tackle. Ball goes the other way. They're supposed to stay there for the cutback. And in their mind, they must be, I'm not in their mind, but they've got to be saying to themselves, I've got to get over there. I got to go make a play. We got to go win the game. We got to go force a fumble. We got to go do something. And they literally run to the football. The running back cuts back, hits that seam where they're not in the gap, and goes 33 yards. And we're all watching from the stands going, whoa, what's going on here? Yeah. And when Dave Nixon and I and you go back and watch on the film, we're like, oh my goodness, here's another. It's not effort. It's almost like too much effort.
It's like execution.
Getting out of yourself and going and trying to make a play on every play instead of doing your job. And it becomes a trust thing where you've got to trust the guy on the other side to do his job, and you have to do your job. And I know that Kalani's got to go back and focus on that this week. It would really help if there were some leaders on this defense and this offense from the players' perspective that would step up and say to the guys, quit trying to do too much. Do your job, execute at an unbelievably high level, trust the guy next to you to do their job and execute at an incredibly high level. And let's have a little bit of fun out there in that execution.
I think when people say show some fight, I think that's tied into the execution.
Right.
It's not just, hey, you're not trying, but when you say, and I wrote an article about it earlier in the week in the Deseret News about they got to show some fight to beat Mike Tyson. You have to fight him, which means you've got to focus on doing what you trained to do,
right?
Executing it. And then having some attitude and some confidence, as opposed to just, I'm just going to go out there and maybe he'll take a knee.
And to me, it's about it's about mindset and pride in what you're doing, like in your craft. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I love your Mike Tyson example. When you say you got to take the fight to Mike Tyson, no, you don't. You don't go run into Mike Tyson with your face.
You survive him, get him tired, and then you beat him.
What you do is you go, okay, the only way to fight Mike Tyson is this is the defense I have to play. I have to do it this way. I've got to keep my hands up. I got to jab when he does this. To even stay in the ring with Mike Tyson, you have to execute to perfection to stay in the ring with Mike, right? It's not about you're not trying hard enough, because guess what? Trying hard against Mike Tyson doesn't do jack.
No, but if you execute, you can beat him. If you don't, you get executed.
Right. And so with Mike, you have to say, I have to know exactly what to expect from him. I know what he does, and I have got to hone my plan down, and I've got to stay in my plan to perfection. Do you remember when Muhammad Ali was getting toward the end of his career and his skills were fading a little bit, and he would look at these really aggressive guys like Joe Frazier and some of these guys, George Foreman in his youth, when he would just punch you out with one punch, and Muhammad Ali's like, okay, I have to execute. I'm going to do the rope-a-dope now. And so my skills aren't even as good as they are, but I can still win because I'm going to protect myself. They're going to punch themselves out, but I'm going to be exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm not going to leave an opening. I'm going to execute this plan that we have to perfection. And in the end, they'll be worn out, and then I will knock them out, I will win.
And it might even just be a lucky punch like Buster Douglas got on Mike Tyson. And shouldn't have won that fight at all, but he hung around. Tyson got tired. Right. He landed a punch. That's what's got to happen Saturday.
Exactly. And so to beat Oklahoma, you have to execute to perfection on both sides of the ball. And you have to hope that they don't. You have to hope that if you're in the right spots and you don't that they start to take chances and they turn the ball over. Because what happens when you're taking chances and you turn the ball over, you get tight, you give up big runs because people aren't in the right gaps. You don't force fumbles and you don't turn the ball over, because the way you beat Oklahoma is the way Oklahoma State beat them is you win the turnover margin battle and you get some short fields and you don't give them short fields because they're really skilled on offense.
And Oklahoma State had to score late in the game, right? But they were in the game.
But they were in the game because guess what they did? They made Oklahoma work for everything they had. They didn't give up big plays over the top. Oklahoma turned the ball over. The offense didn't turn the ball over for Oklahoma State and create problems in short fields, and they didn't give that explosive Oklahoma offense short fields. Next thing you know, they're in the game at the end of the game. Guess what Oklahoma State didn't do the next week?
Any of that.
They went to Central Florida when they were a huge favorite, and for some reason they didn't have the focus that they had against Oklahoma. And it wasn't that Oklahoma State wasn't trying, but they turned the ball over a bunch of times, and the weather wasn't great.
Right.
They started to try to make too many plays, and they lose 45-3 to UCF. This game is about mindset, and it's about execution. And sometimes it's about effort. And I've had some people come up to me the last couple days and go, they just weren't even trying. I'm like, well, I watched the film. I beg to differ. I don't think that anybody wasn't trying, but I do think the effort in execution needs to be picked up. And the mindset in the game needs to be better about, I am going to do my job every single play and stay focused and be where I'm supposed to be.
And when the other team is and your team isn't, it just looks horrible.
Oh, it looks bad. And guess what? Iowa State's physical, and in that game they were unbelievably disciplined.
Yeah.
I didn't see them out of position, and they on the road didn't turn the ball over.
Redshirt freshman quarterback too.
Didn't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
And so to me, when we talk about effort, we're talking about effort in preparation and then effort and doing your assignment right in the game. Not about, hey, they're not running hard or they're not trying, because that's not happening. They're trying.
Let's listen to Kalani Sitake for just a couple of minutes. Here's his thoughts kicking off Oklahoma week, and then we'll talk about the Sooners, and we'll bring in Max Hall and get his take on things as well. This is Kalani from Monday at the football office.
New week, so going to our next game, and then looking forward to the game this weekend. And obviously last weekend didn't go the way we wanted it to, but I think after watching the film and seeing where we're at, have a lot of excitement for what we can get done this week with a quality opponent in Oklahoma, a great team that's ranked, and Venables has done a great job with that team. And you look at his background, he's had kind of, when he was in Clemson, he's had his pick of jobs, and he turned down a bunch of jobs, and this is the one that he took. And so you can see that the Oklahoma brand, they're a national team, and they've had tons of success there in the tradition that they have in that program. So they've been around for a long time and at a high level in the P5 level for decades. And so you see that what they've done with their program and how well they've been coached. They're ranked for a reason, and but looking at what they've done since Venables been a coach, I believe they're 6-6 last year, and look at what the improvement they've made from last year to now being a ranked team with a bunch of fantastic players. I mean, they could do so many things in all three phases. Offensively, we're very familiar with the quarterback and things that he can do with his feet and with his arm. Very strong arm and physical O-line, great playmakers and skill positions, running back and receivers and tight ends. And then defensively strong. I think they have probably the best linebacker in the country playing from.
Kalani Sitake describing Mike Tyson.
Yeah, exactly.
Wasn't that? I was listening to it, just going, yeah, that's the storm that's coming.
And this is a big contrast from last week, because remember, we talked about this last week. Iowa State, they came in here, and as we watched them on film, we're like, wow, this team is really good defensively, like really physical, really disciplined. They don't give big plays over the top. So really good defensive football team. Offensively, they're good. They're physical. They run the ball. Now here comes Oklahoma in here, and we're going, holy cow, this is one of the best offenses in the country. Like, they're spreading you out and throwing the ball all over the place. Think Central Florida a couple years ago, because it's the same offense. The offensive coordinator for Oklahoma spent a couple of years with Josh Heupel at Central Florida. He left the year right before BYU played them in the bowl game, but Central Florida ran that exact same offense. BYU faced the same offense. And then Josh Heupel, Josh Heupel,
yeah.
He's moved his way around and is now the head coach at Tennessee. Josh Heupel, an old Mike Leach guy, right?
Right.
And so there's all this Mike Leach influence in college football, old BYU guy. So BYU's seen this offense, but man, do they have athletes to run it. And interesting, Dylan Gabriel, the quarterback, is the quarterback that BYU faced in this offense at Central Florida. But I can tell you the dudes around him are a little different than the dudes around him at Central Florida.
And the dudes at BYU are a little different.
Yeah, they're
BYU had seven
NFL guys,
NFL guys in that Boca Raton Bowl. And then Gabriel is now at Oklahoma. A couple of thoughts. BYU Sports Addict. Finally, we're actually playing good teams. I love that. We should celebrate going against number 14 this week. Awesome. Even if we lose, great to be honored to play at this level. Let's just play well. I think a lot of folks forget that because of Les's comment.
Yeah, I love Les's comment. He says, Namangas says, a quote about the music industry, but applies to college ball. We're now in a culture, not just a business, but a culture in which we expect everything to happen like snap, like that. And did you notice that Kalani said, hey, look at what happened with Oklahoma. They had a down year last year.
Didn't go to a bowl game.
Because they had a bunch of guys transfer out and new transfers in. Now those transfers are in their second year, and all of a sudden they're competing at a really, really high level. And what did Vegas say before this year started? The over-under on BYU win this year was 4.5.
Something like that.
Right, so they've surpassed that. Now, I thought they'd get to 7.
When they were 5-2, it looked like they were going
7
places.
was my thought at the beginning of the year, and I said it on this show and on every other show that I thought they'd get 7. And if they had an unbelievably special season and stayed 100% healthy, could they get to 8? That would be remarkable in this first year. But Vegas, who does a lot of research, had him at 4.5 as the over-under on wins this year.
And 5-2 might have been little fool's gold.
Well, because we played the easier teams at the beginning of the schedule in this rough schedule. And so it's, expectations of what it takes. And a lot of these transfers that are in are back next year. 7 transfers on offense, all starting in their first year. Maybe we overthought. I thought, man, these guys have an immediate impact. But being in a program and part of that is also important. And so hopefully these transfers, we're seeing it in basketball. We're going to talk about basketball later. The transfers that are here in their second year, Jackson Robinson, Workman, having a much bigger impact already here early and look like they belong. The one difference about Oklahoma compared to Iowa State, Oklahoma explosive offensively, but defensively, they're good, but they're not lights out. They're 88th in the country in pass defense. Their offense goes out, and they throw the football around, and they have short drives, and when they don't score, they give it up quickly. When they do score, they score quickly. So 88. They're 104th in sacks a game. They don't get after the quarterback that much. In first downs allowed, they're 68th in the country. So on the defensive side, Iowa State is a much more stout defense, but very limited offensively. This is a team that is lights out offensively, one of the best in the country offensively. The best offense in the Big 12, for sure, with a dynamic quarterback in Dylan Gabriel. So this is such a contrast from last week's game. It's like the opposite type of team. And here's the other thing that I think is different, Dave, and maybe this bodes well for BYU. Everyone expected BYU, the odds makers didn't, but I think the team felt like, man, this is the game we got to win. This is the team we match up with. We got to win this one because we got Oklahoma and Oklahoma State coming up. Nobody expects BYU to compete this week. You think the guys can come in and play free and have some fun and maybe play a little looser and
I would hope so.
Shock the world?
Why not? It's your last home game.
So
till August 31st when Southern Illinois.
Yeah, and you got number 14. You have one of the biggest names in college football coming into just because BYU's 5-5. If you're not there, I feel bad for you. This is what being in the Big 12 is about, is having the Oklahomas and Oklahoma States and these big name schools coming in on a week by week basis every year.
Hey, Doug's on the live stream from the Front Runner train. Thanks for getting me home. Love having a wonderful show and a couple of fun guys to get me home. Question, why is college football the best sport out there? Now, Wally Joyner will be on with us in a little bit. He may argue that, but college football is the best. I don't know what it is. It's the band, it's the fireworks, it's the pageantry, it's an occasional flyover, it's the colors, it's where you went to school or grew up. And there's so few games compared to the other sports. Every Saturday matters.
It's an event. It's an all-day event, and every game is so important in the big scheme of things. So
10 a.m. Mountain Time on ESPN. It's the earliest start at Lavelle Edwards Stadium since 2004. Oklahoma's earliest start since 2002.
Yeah, I don't know who it favors. Does it favor the home team to play early in the morning? I don't know.
There's not enough evidence.
Yeah,
we got to collect some evidence.
I almost would like as good as this offense is for Oklahoma, and as speedy as they are, and as much as they throw the football, because this is a passing-based offense, could we have a typhoon of some sort on Saturday? Because it might favor us to have it be really, really bad weather with bad footing and like not able to throw the football. That might be to BYU's advantage.
As we sit this morning, tonight, there's a 50% chance of some rain on Saturday.
Can you call your buddy Kevin Eubank?
What, have him drum up a storm?
Could he dial up some snow for Saturday morning? That
he doesn't do that. He just reads the maps and charts.
Yeah, Earl Carr says there's no excuse for the stat, but BYU in the losses has been outscored 199 to 64.
Yeah, that's ugly.
It is ugly. That's big time football too. In BYU's losses, they're horrifically bad in turnover margin. We just talked about Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State beat Oklahoma 2 weeks ago, and then they went on the road and turned it over 4 times and lost 45-3. When you play good teams and you turn it over, you're gonna get killed. You're not playing UNLV. You're not playing Wyoming. You're not playing New Mexico. You can turn the ball over 4 times against New Mexico, and you might even win. You turn it over 4 times against Iowa State, you're getting thumped. You turn it over 4 times this week against Oklahoma, they're scoring 60.
Vegas has Oklahoma a 24.5-point favorite. That's the second largest home underdog spread in program history. USC, Reggie Bush and those guys, when they were number 1, they came in as 26.5.
Yeah.
And they covered.
Yeah.
They were really good. Oklahoma 24.5.
We always have this discussion at our house because all of the boys played, and my son-in-law played at Stanford when they were number 5 in the country and run the Rose Bowl. And we get in this argument. Well, who played against the best guys? Who played against the best guys? And I'll bring up some of my old school guys, and they're like, they just dismiss that. They don't even know who they are. And then Dallas will say, well, I played against John Ross at Washington, who was the fastest man in football, and played against USC with these guys. And we go down. Gavin, Landon, they all talk about who they played against. And then Kellen goes, well, we played against USC with Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart, and they all go, oh, never mind. You win. Like
those guys
that USC team
they were pros
ridiculous.
Before they were pros.
They absolutely covered in Cougar Stadium, right? In LaVell Edwards.
Before we bring on Max, let's remind you about game day on Saturday morning, 8 o'clock local time, 8 o'clock Mountain game day. We fire up from outside LaVell Edwards Stadium, 2 hours leading up to kickoff of BYU and Oklahoma on ESPN.
And we need you guys watching us because you know how we talk about the Cougars need to have a better mindset? We're not going to have a good mindset at 8 a.m. if we don't feel like people are watching.
Yeah, don't watch the cartoons. Watch game day.
Dave might be trying to do stuff he shouldn't even do. He might be getting out of,
It's going to be something. We've never even done a show this early.
No.
But we're going to do it 10 o'clock Eastern time. That's 8 o'clock Mountain, BYU TV and ESPN Plus, leading up to the Cougars and Sooners with the post-game show back on BYU TV just as soon as it's over.